want to get into these two big myths, which are there's only 11 million and there's no Hispanic crime. And then I want you to tell us why those myths are so strong in America.
Wait, what was the first one? Oh, the 11 million.
11 million.
Yeah, that I always was suspicious of that because we've been hearing 11 million for a decade, so that can't be right. And it turns out these two Bear Stearns analysts back in 2005, and you can read this in the book, so I won't go into too much detail, but they were advising people about something important, their money, and they said, look, all these 11 million claims all come from the census reports, and they ask people, are you foreign born and are you here legally, in separate questionnaires, and they subtract all foreign born from all foreign born the number of people who say they're here legally, and you end up with the illegal population. It's like stepping on a scale holding your dog.
Right, but it also discounts anchor babies completely, doesn't it?
Well, first of all, it assumes that illegal aliens are answering government surveys,
right,
which is what the Bear Stearns analyst pointed out. So they looked at other things, remittances back to Mexico, housing permits, school graduation rates, and back in 2005, they concluded it was 20 million. Meanwhile, these two famous investigative reporters, Bartlett and Steele, you can look up those names together on Wikipedia. They are such famous investigative reporters. Back in the very next year, 2006, they said 3 million are coming in a year. Well, so I said, okay, I'm going to underestimate this. Let's say it's 1 million a year. Let's say 1 million a year. That gets us to the minimum figure of 30 million illegal aliens today. If it's 3 million a year since Bartlett and Steele said so, at least for 2006, it's 50 million a year. And, go to LA and you'll think 30 million is low.
Yeah, that's incredible. And we don't hear about this because one of the main reasons that you talk about in the book, in the Carlos Slim chapter, which I thought was amazing, he saved the New York Times from bankruptcy. He has an agenda because he's a telecom guy, and he gets a cut every time money gets sent back or calls get sent back. And his thing is, don't discredit illegal immigration. Make it sound cool because I need the money.
That's right. He makes money off both legal and illegal immigration to America. Because Mexico is a very poor country, but they get a lot of money being sent back by legal and illegal immigrants here. That's a cost of immigration that Americans are never told about. But yes, many Mexican immigrants, hardworking. They're also accessing a lot of government services.
Right.
And of the money they're collecting, they're sending half of it back to their grandmothers in Chiapas, who are then spending it on Carlos Slim products. He owns 40% of the companies being traded on the Mexican stock exchange. Well, being a monopolist, and he has a monopoly on all telecommunications, being a monopolist means nothing in Uganda. No one has any money.
Right.
But luckily for Carlos Slim, Mexico is right next to the richest country in the world. So Mexico is getting $20 million a year in remittances from Mexican immigrants to this country. They're just sending that $20 million to Mexico. That is $20 million being vacuumed out of the American economy. It won't be spent to start businesses in this country. It won't be spent to tip your doorman, to buy products, to hire employees. It is sucked out and put in Carlos Slim's pocket.
Well, it's the opposite of tourism. Tourism is the best industry because you just sit there and people bring you money and throw it at you just to be near you.
Right,
the opposite of that is you come and you just take all their money and throw it back to your country.
Yes.
But 20 million sounds low.
I'm sorry, billion.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Did I
sounds
say? I'm sorry.
Well, the myth is...
Which is more than we send them in foreign aid.
Right. Oh, yeah, you mentioned that in the book. There's this myth of the poor Mexican family struggling to feed their each other so they can go, send the daughter to college. But the majority of illegals that I see in New York, they're under the bridge. They won't work for under 10, 15 bucks an hour. They don't do minimum wage. And then they all live in a house in bunk beds where there's 15 guys. They work 7 days a week, and their money is all profit.
Right.
They end up spending it and sending it back. The only thing they blow their money on is these stupid dances with a pretty girl where you spend $5 to dance with a lady, and they'll blow their paycheck there sometimes. But besides that, it's all zoop, zoop, back to Mexico.
Yes, and legal immigrants to this country take far more government assistance than Native Americans do. Illegal immigrants overwhelmingly take more welfare than Native Americans do. About 71% of illegal immigrants are already accepting government benefits. And just in a calculation of how much you get back from the government, depending on average, what your educational attainment is. High school dropouts get, I forget what it is, it's about between 20,000 and 50,000 a year back in net income from the government. You know, we're taking out those important sales taxes they pay. Obviously, college graduates are sending in about $46,000 a year more than they get back in taxes. Well, only about 8% of Americans don't even have a high school degree. A majority of immigrants do not have a high school degree. These are poor people being dumped on the country who are going to be net welfare recipients and not taxpayers.